Oh, went from 18 to 8. What happened? So yeah, Love, Death, and Robots. Volume 2. I wasn't a big fan of Volume 2, just for a couple reasons. One, the stories just they weren't as gravitating to me as they were in the first volume, and then there were only eight episodes. Like I didn't understand what I don't know if like there was maybe things like COVID and little obstacles that they had to jump through to like making the second volume, but for some reason I just I as much as I wanted to like the second volume, and I went through it twice, and still like I just couldn't get the same love that I had for it as I did for the first volume. The first volume had 18 mostly solid episodes. Like basically everything that was in the first volume, I was pretty much invested in, or at least even if it wasn't the greatest, I was still, I was still there for it. And you had a lot of episodes to choose from. Like it felt like I was very surprised that we had 18 episodes, and each episode is roughly about 10 to 15 minutes, 20 minutes top a piece. And every single story that was told was a very interesting story. Every single story that was told, I was like, wow, I would love to see like a full series, or at least a part 2 or a part 3. And I even thought like every volume, the whole thing I thought they were going to do was like volume 1 was these stories, volume 2 was going to be like part 2 of these stories, volume 3 would be the third part, whatever. But like, or even still, like I even thought that even if volume 2 wasn't like a second part or a third part to these stories, they might somehow get picked up by somebody else and be like, hey, you know what, this story is actually kind of interesting, let's take this a little bit further. So far we obviously haven't gotten anything like that, but like, yeah, volume 1, like just the visuals are just like stunning. Like I couldn't believe like half the stuff I was looking at. I just couldn't believe the visuals that I was seeing. Like they really, and I like the idea of them having like different stylistic animation for every episode. Everything felt different, everything felt new, everything outside of the live action episodes. I think there was like 1 or 2. I just loved that every new episode was an escape into a new world. The visuals were on just like amazing, whether it was like full CGI or it was 2D. They did a good job picking like the best of the best stories. I think my favorite one will still be Into the Aquila Rift, where, spoilers ahead, Buddy is basically finds out that he's living a dream, a simulation over and over and over again, because his crew crash lands into this alien symbiote weird cocoon thing, and it's like constantly like simulating. It has the ability to like constantly simulate this like reality where they're living in bliss, or at least the one guy is. And it just like stories like that like really gravitated to me in the first volume, whereas in the second volume, like the visuals are nice, but the stories kind of like they were very lackluster. And it's kind of like they started and then they kind of like, I was like, okay, like I'm kind of invested in this, but by the time you really get invested in it, it kind of like stops. And it doesn't feel like, none of the episodes felt like there was any closure. Like the one episode that I was expecting to really be good was the one with Michael B. Jordan, which was like I don't know if that was like part CGI or part live. I don't know what was going on in that episode. If that was full CGI, then like honestly, that episode my hat goes off to that episode, because that was probably the best CGI that I've ever seen from anything in a very long time. So like, comment below if you guys know the truth behind the scenes. Honestly, like that the graphics in that one was amazing. Like I couldn't believe, like I'm sitting there, I'm like, is that real life or is that CGI? There was times where I had to sit there and rewind and kind of like pause and look, and I'm like, what is going on with this? Like this looks like, is that the actual Michael B. Jordan or is that like CGI? Because like I really couldn't tell half the time, and honestly, I'll take it any way I could get it. Like, but that's as far as the episode went. Like, visually, it looked amazing, but the story was kind of just like, I didn't really care about what was happening because I didn't know what was happening. Like, he ends up in this base where he's trying to hide from this robot, and that's all fine. But it's like, why is this happening? Where does this, like, why is this happening? What does this mean? Like, what planet is he on? What's happening? Like, you get like little breadcrumbs of like things that are happening in this episode, but there's not enough to keep me invested in like that story, or even make me want to be like, you know what? Like, I want to see more of this. Like, which is what Volume 1 did so well. Every story felt like it was like a teaser or like a trailer basically to its own series, and that's what made it so good. I think if anything, Volume 2, the best one that they had going for them was the one with the old lady in the vacuum. I thought that was hilarious, and you know, it was I thought that could be its own little thing on its own. But like outside of that episode, like I don't know, like the other ones, like they all looked great. Like Volume 2 had very beautiful visuals. It just the stories felt flat. Like I'm already forgetting a lot of them because like they were that forgettable. So it's unfortunate because they built up so much hype in the first volume, and then they ended up just kind of like collapsing it in the second volume. So I don't know. Like if they are gonna make a third volume, I'm really hoping that they get the negative criticism that I feel like they deserve from this second volume, and hopefully, you know, bounce back for the better. But ultimately, it's always nice to get like another volume from Love. Like the whole concept, the whole anthology series concept, I really like it, and you know, I wish there was more of it in terms of like the episodes, but you know, they gave us 8 episodes, and I was really hoping that the 8 episodes are really gonna hit us hard. I was like, 8 episodes, okay, well these must be some pretty good stories if they can only pick 8. Yeah, it's very unfortunate that, you know, it couldn't be better than it was, but you know what? I'm still glad to see the visuals were still nice, and it was still nice to get a second volume, just ultimately. That's basically all I got. Again, guys, please like, comment, and subscribe to Nerds on the Block. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.
Yo, you still here, dog? Yo, subscribe to the channel, bro. Make sure you hit that notification bell to stay locked on all of our content when it drops.
What's wrong with you guys?
Yeah, bro.
But block these on.
Seriously, like it's so easy, bro. Just click the button, bro.